So we will start today on an important topic, that is thermocouple. You know possibly that the thermocouple is one of the most widely used sensor for industrial situations, because in industrial situation you will have to measure at a very high temperature, often 1000, 1500, or like this there, or even where. And those temperatures, most of the our measuring RTD or say thermistors or temperature, other types of temperature sensors, they do not work. And thermocouple is the option, most the popular option. And another advantage of thermocouple is that why it is popular, it is very rugged. We'll come to it. It is very rugged and reproducible. We'll come to these points afterwards. That is here thermocouple. So basics of thermocouple, I think you know all of you that you have studied it in your school days. It starts from Seebeck effect and Peltier effect, but we will not go into the details of the physics of it. Rather, we will state finally from will, or rather, I will state it in terms of our own convenience, that which says that if there are two metals, A and metal B, and there are these two junctions are kept at two different temperatures, T1 and T2 there would be some voltage induced. Say suppose E0, some DC voltage would be induced. And this DC voltage also we can say that this will happen the same thing, that wherever you make the break, if we make the junction temperature like this, says suppose T1 is the hot junction and T2 is called the cold junction. And if we make the A and B at the metal, so wherever you make it, uh, this one, there would be the same voltage would be introduced in it there, if we break it. So the point is that where the break or where you are putting it, measuring the voltage, it is immaterial, but any part of the this circuit, if we make a break and measure the voltage, it would be the same voltage there. And what is this voltage? E0 is equal to C1 into T1 minus T2 plus of C2 into T1 square minus T2 square. So mostly the first term contributes to the linear term for the sensitivity, but the second term gives you non-linearity. So that's why thermocouples are primarily non-linear, but their sensitivity can be mentioned about a small range of temperature, but overall complete temperature range, its operating range, thermocouple are non-linear, and that's why we will find some sort of thermocouple tables where if it gives that what are the material, say suppose whatever the A and B material, and T2 is what is called a cold junction and T1 is your hot junction. If T2, the cold junction, you keep it at 0 degrees Celsius, and hot junction temperature, if you vary, then basically, so metal A, metal B, T2 equal to 0 degrees Celsius. From the T1, you will get what is the value of 0. These are all tables are there. So some table are there where from which which has been found out experimentally for different materials. And these things, because they are non-linear characteristics. And again, these materials ideally uh, any two dissimilar materials, if they are connected, joined together and placed at two different temperatures, they will produce some voltage and they will produce some thermocouple voltage. So, any two dissimilar materials are suitable, is a candidate for a thermocouple, this pair. But you will find it if we try to see that only at most 6 or 7 types of thermocouples are available commercially. All the metals are not used as thermocouple junctions. Also, not only metal, I will say the alloys also. So, we can have an infinite number of combinations, but basically you will find that the not many of the combinations are used because of the decided that which one would be used decided by sensitivity, inertness, because sensitivity it should have a reasonably high temperature sensitivity, though it is basically small, but definitely compared to others it is. Next is that inertness. They should not react, this metal should not react with the atmosphere at that high temperature. So, this is very important time like this. Stability. For the long time, it should not lose its property and the sensitivity. This should not change. Next is reproducibility. Reproducibility means, okay, some thermocouple I was using, some pairs of thermocouple made, say suppose I say copper constantan. If this particular thermocouple wear goes wrong, if I replace it by some same material, copper constant and thermocouple there, their characteristics, their sensitivity should not change. So, reproducibility means ability to replace. This is not always a good property for all the sensors. For example, I told that the thermistor, if you replace one thermistor by another, the characteristics will differ slightly. So, they are not reproducible in that way. But the thermocouple, because of their industrial use and like this, uh, if we keep it in mind, so definitely that thermocouple, this reproducibility is there, because if one thermocouple goes wrong, we can interchange it, we can replace it without affecting the overall measurement of the overall measurement system. So, depending upon this, only few materials are used there. They call it the types R, S, K, T, J, etc. Only 6 or 7, I am not wrong, they are the popular type of thermocouple which are used. What are these R, S, T and all the things? They are basically the combination materials, and as we will find that, and they are used in different temperature ranges, and you will find that they are used in different temperature ranges, and they could be alloys also. So, if we show it like this, the type, and here positive, negative, because you need to have something like this. This is A, this is your B. So this I call it a positive and negative terminal there. Okay. Then it is range. Then it is typical sensitivity. The type which is called R is the positive is platinum, rhodium. So it's an alloy of platinum and rhodium, and negative is platinum. The range is 0 to 1500 degrees Celsius. Easily we can go cover this much range there. And the typical sensitivity is 5.25 to 14.1 microvolt per degree Celsius. You can see it is varying from 5.25 to 14.1. This is because in the lower range the sensitivity is low, higher range the sensitivity is high, and the characteristics, or rather, maybe I am not sure, I have forgotten, but their sensitivity may vary in this range, and basically their characteristics is non-linear. Characteristics are non-linear. Similarly, we can have a S, and here it is basically 90% platinum and 10% rhodium. This is the composition. Here we can have another one that is also S type, 87% platinum and 13% rhodium. And the negative is platinum itself. So it is also platinum, rhodium, but here it is negative is platinum. And the range is also almost the same. There also the sensitivity naturally does not differ much, 5.4 to 12.2 microvolt per degree Celsius. So very close, but these are the two commercially available thermocouples. They are particularly useful for measurement at high temperature, and they are also costly because they employ platinum there. Next is K, which is called chromel is the positive and alumel is the negative. You can see that both of them are alloy. Here it is a 90% nickel and 10% chromium, while aluminum is 94% nickel, 2% aluminium, then 3% manganese, then 1% silicon. So it's a complicated here, but this chromel alumel is also a proper A there. Here it is minus 200 to 1300 degrees Celsius. It is the range there. And here it is 15.2 to 42.56. 42.6 microvolt per degree Celsius. So its sensitivity is much higher. Then we have a class T. Here it is copper, and here it is constantan, which is 53% copper, 43% nickel. 57% copper, 43% nickel. And its range is minus 200 to plus 350 degrees Celsius. So the range is relatively small. Here the sensitivity is also high, 15.8 to 61.8 microvolt per degree Celsius. And the last one is J. It is iron and it is constant then. And its range is minus 150 to plus 750 degrees Celsius. And here it is 21.8 to 64.6 microvolt per degree Celsius. So, these are the different types of there we have it, and mostly they are alloys, and we can see copper T, type T and type J. Copper constant and iron constant are useful for the lower temperature range, and platinum, rhodium type R and S are for higher temperature range, but the sensitivity is low, and chromel is in between. It is a covers a good area there, but all the chromel aluminum and platinum rhodium and this sort of thermocouples are actually costly. So naturally, we'll have to take care of the cost and also the protection of it. Now, so how they are constructed and how they look like? Because it has to be used in industrial situation, so which is hazardous, a lot of heat and dust and all the other things are there, and also it has to be there could be a it has to be mechanically protected from any outside impact or like this there. So the thermocouple, if we look at it, the construction, it is something like this. So these are basically ceramic bits. This will protect the thermocouple wear from the mechanical uh, damages and etc. And these two wears are there, and they are at the end, they are twisted, and they are at the end, they are called the butt welded hot jump. So there are different types of welding. There is called a butt welded hot junction. So this butt welded hot junction is here there. And finally, what we do is that we place the thermocouple inside a stainless steel, what we call it a thermal well, which is inserted inside the furnace, and this is a hot junction is connected to the gear there, and from there we take the thermocouple output there, so that it is mechanically protected, and here the quickly heat is transferred with the stainless steel here there, and the hot junction is in contact with this one, and we get a voltage up to this one. So these are basic constructions of it. Now the measurement. How would you measure the voltage? And one more point is that, okay, I make a there are few things there. There are few questions also there. Suppose I make a thermocouple with uh, say platinum, rhodium, like this here. And for measuring the voltage at this end, I use a voltmeter or maybe some millivolt meter or maybe, and that is using a copper. So basically, once we try to measure it, we are using some copper wire to connect it. So in other words, we are using for practical measurement, once you try to measure it, you will have to insert another metal there. So will it have any effect? So these are the very common questions. Or okay, that this is a hot junction, that part is a cold junction. In between there are the temperature may vary. What we call it. So will this one will have any effect, the variation of temperature in between, or like this? To answer that one, we have an extensive experiments have been carried out by our predecessors, and they have came out with very nice there few laws. We call it laws of thermocouple. So they have seen that these are the properties of the thermocouple which are very interesting and useful there, and very useful in practical cases there. What are the laws? And these have been found out by after carrying out extensive experimentation there. So the first law, it's called law of homogeneous circuits. What it says, two cases we are considering. Same materials A and B, they have been put in two different junction temperatures, put at two different junction temperatures, T1 and T2. It says that in that case, this will have a same voltage. So same voltage would be induced, whatever be the intermediate point temperatures, provided the materials remains the same, as also the hot and cold junctions, they are the same. So it is fully dependent on hot junction temperature, cold junction temperature, and the materials. So that will not have any effect there. Next one is more important and useful also. That is say suppose it was the standard one. T1, T2, A and B, and in B I have any part of it I have broken that area, that voltage is zero. Now suppose at any point in place of keeping it open, I connect another metal C connected, but the temperature at this point and the temperature at this point are the same. So that I have drawn it. Say suppose let it be in the cold junction compensation. Say suppose the cold junction temperature. Suppose both of them are temperature T2. In between I connect a copper or any third material C there. That will not affect the measurement. They will induce the same voltage there. So that makes us much more comfortable position, because now for measurement of voltage I can insert any other copper conductor or like this for measurement of the voltage. That will not affect the temperature. And this one is called law of intermediate metal. Law of intermediate metal. The third one is also very important, that is called law of intermediate temperature. Law of intermediate temperature. What does it say? Suppose I have a two pair of thermocouple A and B, material is the same. Temperatures of hot junction is T1, temperature of the cold junction is T2, and the voltage induced or voltage measured is E1 there. Consider another case. the same thing, but the temperatures are different. A, B, B, and here it is T2, and here T3, and here voltage is E2. Of course, I just took a polarity like this, arbitrarily assigned like this. So, if T2 is the hot junction and T3 is the cold junction, I make that A there. Now, in that third case, is just consider that the same thermocouple, but the temperature is here is T1, temperature here is T3, and the voltage induced is E3 there. Okay. So, in that case, this E3 is equal to E1 plus E2. And obviously, T1 is greater than T2 is greater than T3. Okay. But this is obvious, this is also another fact which has been extensively experimented and obtained like this. But the point is that we will find out that this law is very useful in our measurement applications with thermocouple. How do they come into picture and what is their importance? Let us consider it further. So, okay, I say it, this implication of this one, I just tell it, then we'll explain. This is obvious, that is a third metal can be inserted for measuring the voltage that I have already mentioned, provided these two temperature remains the same. Okay. And this one is useful for cold junction compensation. Okay. Say what is cold junction, that is important, and we will say that it has got certain implications like this. Now let us try to understand what is meant by cold junction compensation. What is meant by cold junction compensation, and then we will put it like this. Say suppose if we recall that the E0 is given as C1 into T1 minus T2 plus of C2 into T1 square minus T2 square. This is a standard expression. So it is dependent upon the material properties. C1 and C2 will be decided on this one, and then this is your hot junction, and this will be your cold junction. So definitely what we can do is that if we measure the value of E0, from that one we would like to measure, or we like to estimate what is the value of the hot junction temperature T1. What is the hot junction temperature T1? So what would be the best way for cold junction temperature? Where you could keep the cold junction temperature? Could have been best is that at 0 degree Celsius. It is not difficult at all. So it would be have a hot junction, and this cold junction you always keep it at 0 degree Celsius. But definitely this is not a practical solution, because the ice water bath you will have to keep it always, and mind it, this temperature measurements are 24 into 7. That means all the time continuously we have to measure. So in that case we will have to every channel or every thermocouple, you will have to keep a ice water bath, and that will have to be kept, the cold junction has to be kept there and always be put there. And if you recall, you will be surprised to know, in a boiler, say, at least in a boiler, the thermal power plant boiler or like this there we have few hundred numbers of thermocouples to measure the temperature at different zones, different points, and etc. Because the temperature monitoring is very important. That will indicate the complete combustion or the burning, how the burning is taking place. So naturally, in that case, if we look at it, so it is not feasible to provide that, keep for each thermocouple to keep it at 0 or ice water bath temperature there. So naturally, what is the way out? The other way out is keep them in ambient temperature, because this is more there, it is more uh, feasible there, because don't have to do, because a lot of cost is saved. You don't have to keep the cold junction at ambient temperature. You would be immediately asking me the question that the ambient temperature may change. It may change from summer to winter, from daytime to night time. It could go to 0 degree Celsius in the winter night, or it may be in very summer, or like this, it may be 45 degrees Celsius also. So definitely, and that means there would be a wide range of variation of the ambient temperature, and as a result, the E1, from measuring this E1 or this voltage there, if we try to estimate this T1, that is the hot junction temperature, there would be some considerable error in it there. There would be a considerable error in it there. So that is a major issue there, and we try to overcome this problem. So practical solution is that we keep the cold junction at the ambient temperature, and you measure the ambient temperature somehow and try to provide compensation. Because say suppose I make it in for cold junction at 0 degrees Celsius, T2 is equal to 0, I get some voltage. But if the ambient temperature, it is kept at ambient temperature, say 30 degrees Celsius, this voltage will reduce. My question is that, so whether we can add some voltage into it so that I get back to the voltage which is exactly it was earlier with 0 degree Celsius. That is have some sort of compensation, we call it, and for that one, this law of intermediate temperature would be very useful. So what I wanted to conclude here is that it is not practical to use ice water bath for this one there, for cold junction, but we keep the cold junction at the ambient temperature and make some sort of compensation that you measure the ambient temperature and provide some extra voltage, add some extra voltage so that you can get it here. You can get the actually the hot junction temperature only, the other as if at 0 degree Celsius. This could be explained if we consider an example there. Is it clear up to this? Any question? Okay, I would be first giving one example to make you understand that what it is. Say suppose the characteristic calibration chart for iron constant and thermocouple. What is it? T in 0 degree in degree Celsius and millivolt. If it is 15, 0.738. If it is 30, it is 1.56. If it is 40, it is 2.11. In this way it goes on. I go to the higher side, 180. For 180, I have 9.64. 190, I have 10.25. And 200, it is 10.74. And here 210, I hope it is visible. 210, it is 11.32. And here the reference junction is at 0 degree Celsius. I have the calibration chart. If the reference junction or the cold junction is at 0 degree Celsius, and as the temperature of the hot junction increases, for this type of iron constant and thermocouple, I have this calibration chart. So the question is that if the reference junction is at 30 degrees Celsius and a voltage of 9.64 millivolt is obtained, what is the temperature of hot junction? So it says that if the ambient temperature is at 30 degrees Celsius, that means this is our reference junction, I have measured it, and a voltage of 9.64 millivolt is obtained. So what is the hot junction? What is your opinion? How to do it? Apparently, had it been the 0 degree Celsius is the reference junction, I could have straight away said that it is 180 degrees Celsius is the hot junction temperature. But I cannot say because the reference junction is not at 0 degrees Celsius, but it is at 30 degrees Celsius. So if I go for it, that is that T1 is your unknown hot junction temperature, T2 is your ambient temperature and T3 is your 0 degree Celsius. So corresponding to that one, what I can say, what is the data given? Our data given is that 9.64 millivolt is obtained. That is nothing but your E1 is equal to 9.64 millivolt. And what is E2? If we recall that law of intermediate temperature, E2 is that if the temperature, hot junction is at ambient temperature, that is T2, and cold junction as at 0 degrees Celsius. So I know the ambient temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. So we know that this is 1.56 is the millivolt is the voltage there. So what I say that E3 is equal to E1 plus E2. What is it? It's, if we add it up, it is 11.20 millivolt. So what is E3? E3 is the voltage which is induced if the hot junction is at T1 and the cold junction is at 0 degrees Celsius. That means I can look for this table there. And if we look at it, this is a 11.20 millivolt is this one. I don't get 11.20, but I have a results of 10.74 corresponding to 200 and 11.32 corresponding to 210. So what we can say by interpolation, I can say that is T1 is equal to 208 degrees Celsius. So this is your advantage that, okay, I need not keep the ambient keep the cold junction at the 0 degrees Celsius. I can keep it in the ambient temperature, but measure the ambient temperature and add with it something like this, such that the whole thing is there, and we will get a voltage which is corresponding to your temperature as if the cold junction is at 0 degrees Celsius. And also we can say that in that case, the ambient temperature variation will not cause you any error. So that is your best way, or one of the best ways like this. Is it clear? Any doubt? Could you understand, or is there any doubt, or is it clear? Please try to look into it. And what we do is that basically what is ambient, you can show that is an cold junction compensation, or like this, can be achieved in several ways. One of the technique I can say, just you can. So we need to, for doing the cold junction temperature, you need to keep the A at the ambient temperature and add that voltage with this one. So one method for cold junction compensation, of course there are several methods, but one method I can say, by using a bridge compensation. What is this? Say suppose I keep, this is your thermocouple, say this is your T1 and T2. T2 is your ambient temperature there. And this is your A and B there. What you do is that you connect to a bridge circuit. This is a basically RT is the resistance temperature or RTD or could be thermistor like this there. So we have a bridge which is otherwise balanced, that means at 0 degrees Celsius when this RTD or thermistor, whichever, mind it, we will have to look into the polarity of this because their characteristics changes and different. Uh, so there, the bridge is balanced at 0 degrees Celsius. But as the ambient temperature increases, so what we require, say suppose this one is the voltage polarity T1 and T2. This bridge I will have to choose the RTD or thermistor, also the voltage here, such that this will add up some extra voltage. This will add up some extra voltage. If I call it, it is E1, it is E2, and here it is E3 is equal to E1 plus E2, what we are trying to do. So this thing can be achieved by adding up some bridge configuration. There are several techniques, but I am giving very simple one. This is E2 is the voltage here. You just add them up and then so that this will be that E3 there. So whatever be the ambient temperature, if the ambient temperature increases, E1 will decrease, but E2 will increase, so that E3 remains same as long as T1 remains constant. So this is one way of this compensation. There are several ways. If I get time, I can get it of the next day. But I stop here.